So the humans who love to interact, who love the assembly of people, who have many friends, they are generally social in nature. And this is true for birds as well, right? And that is why these seagulls have a well developed social status. We will come to this point also, right? As far as their breeding is concerned, they breed on every continent, from Arctic, from today Antarctic, Arctic Sea, Antarctica, Africa, Asia. So their breeding is on every continent. Now, in these seagulls, actually, basically, there are many types, right? For example, in this topic, we are discussing the black-headed gull, which is primarily relevant for the India, right? But similarly, there are many types of seagulls. So we are discussing it generally that what are seagulls, and then we will be specific towards this particular species, right? So till now we have understood that they love the noisy environment, they are social in nature, and they breed on every continent. But when we compare northern hemisphere with the southern hemisphere, they are most abundant breeders of northern hemisphere, right? Though they are found in every areas, but more importantly they are in northern hemisphere. Another important fact is that there is no marked dimorphism among the male and the female seagulls. Now, what do we understand by dimorphism? So, basically, these are those characteristics which differentiate between males and females. For example, so when we talk about the humans, in general, males have longer height than females. So this is one of the mechanisms through which you can tell that, okay, this is a criteria on which you can differentiate. In general, obviously, there will be many exceptions also, but in general, yes. When it comes to the seagulls, there is no marked dimorphism. So that means that just by seeing, you cannot tell that whether this seagull is male or a female type, right? Next, coming to this black-headed gull. Now, this is relevant for India. Why? Because one, it breeds in Eurasian region, and then from Eurasia, it migrates towards the southern India, right? So that is why it is also a migratory bird for India, and it comes to India in which months? Winter season, right? It also goes to Philippines, and their chief food is insects, right? Next, as far as a specific location is concerned in India, the Krishna Wildlife Sanctuary of Andhra Pradesh is very famous to host these seagulls. And there also, because you have the Krishna mangrove area, so the mangrove wetlands again attract these seagulls. So basically, during the winter season, the coastal areas attract these species, right? So that is why the mangrove wetlands do attract them. As far as their drinking habits are concerned, they are one of those rare species which can drink fresh as well as salt water. Now, most of the species are not capable of drinking both the types of water. There are certain species which can only drink salty water, and there are certain species which can only have the fresh water. But these are one of the species which can have both, because they have developed a physiological mechanism. They have basically a gland right above their eyes, which is specifically designed to flush out the salts. So that it means that they will consume fresh as well as salt water, but the glands which are present on their body, they will flush out the salts. So the remaining water they will consume, right? So this is a unique characteristic of seagull species, which is also responsible for their widespread distribution in different habitats in different continents, right? Now let us see the practice question. So the question says, with reference to the seagulls, consider the following statements. One, they are endemic to the Indian Ocean regions. So as we have seen that they are not endemic, they breed in almost every continent. They are widespread in different regions. So obviously they are not endemic. So statement one is incorrect. They can drink only the salt water? No, they can also drink the fresh water. The only ability is they have the presence of glands which flush out the excess salt. So second is also incorrect. They have highly developed social structure. Now this is correct, and hence A only 1 will be the correct answer. And by this, what do we mean? One of the examples of this highly developed social structure is that the education levels of their offsprings is very great. Now, education obviously does not mean that they are also reading the ecology and environment for the UPSC. By education, these species mean that they transfer that how to find their specific insects, their primarily their food resources. So the parents transfer this information to their children in order to know, in order to make them relatively better aware about that which type of food is important for them and which is not. Why this is happening? Because they have well developed social structure, right? So these were the facts related to Seagull. Now moving to the next prelims topic. Now this topic is in the context of the Universal Declaration of the Human Rights, which was adopted exactly 75 years ago. So this is the 75th anniversary of the Universal Declaration of the Human Rights. And the theme chosen for 2023 celebration is freedom, equality, and justice for all. And we know that these three things, that is freedom, equality, and justice, form the three basic principles whenever we have to talk about the human rights as such, right? If you go by the previous year questions in 2020 again, the question was asked basically on the theme to link the Indian constitutional principles and the principles of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. If you see this question, it was that other than the fundamental rights, which of the following parts of the Constitution of India reflects the principles or the provisions of this Universal Declaration on Human Rights, right? So similarly, we have framed the practice question here also, but let us have a brief overlook of the important facts related to the UDHR. Okay, so it was signed 75 years ago and it was signed in the aftermath of World War II. So basically, the powerful countries did the Second World War. They destroyed everything which was available, and after that, they started the principles of peace, harmony, fraternity, right, justice, etc. But yes, it was witnessed that in order to avoid such similar wars, in order to not bring such a situation that the human rights are violated in such a large scale, at such a mass scale, it was believed by the global powers that they should have the Universal Declaration on Human Rights. Now, this Universal Declaration of Human Rights is not a treaty, right? They are just the guiding principles. So that means that if it is not a treaty, so that means it is also not legally binding, right? So this is important, but because most of the international laws are based on the basic premises, on the basic principles which is provided by the UDHR, and this makes it important. And as we have seen in the previous question asked in the previous year, so we also know that not just the international laws, many countries have their domestic laws, their constitution, national constitution also in relation or also on the basis of the main principles of UDHR, right? So in this context, just have a brief overview of the facts. So it was the first time the countries agreed on the freedoms and rights that deserve universal protection. As we have discussed, in 1948, in the aftermath of World War II, it was agreed in Paris. This is not a treaty, hence it is not legally binding also, right? A formal drafting committee was headed by Eleanor Roosevelt. Okay, just a factual information, so just remember the name. Now, important lines, if I have to read these lines, that what is written in this declaration, so just listen to them. Okay, this will give you that what is this whole Universal Declaration of Human Rights is all about. So the declaration says that all are equal before the law, which means that every person who is there in any continent, in any country, all those people are equal before the law. Now just connect it with the Article 14 of India's Constitution, right? And that everyone is entitled to fair and public hearing by an independent and impartial tribunal. So this shows the relevance of independent judiciary, right? Everyone has the right to seek and to enjoy in other countries asylum from persecution. Okay, so in this sense, just think about the Citizenship Amendment Act, right? In this sense, also think about the Rohingya refugees, about the forced refugees in the regions of West Asia, Northern Africa, right? The declaration enshrines the right to freedom of religion, freedom of opinion and expression, Article 19, Article 25, and to the freedom of peaceful assembly, again Article 19. And it says that everyone has the right to education. Which article in the Indian Constitution? Write it in the comment section. Okay, so that is how you can see that how this Universal Declaration of Human Rights is so much similar to the Indian Constitution also, right? Fundamental rights, preambles, directive principles of state policies, and fundamental duties of our Constitution reflects the principles and provisions of UDHR. Okay, pretty simple topic. So just have a quick overview of this practice question. With reference to the Universal Declaration of the Human Rights, consider the following statements. 3 statements given, and you have to tell how many of them are correct. 1. It is an international treaty. No, it is not a treaty. Second, it is legally binding. No, it is not legally binding. Third, fundamental duties of the Constitution of India reflects the principles and provisions of UDHR. Correct. So this is true. Hence, A only 1 will be the correct answer. As far as answer to this previous year question is concerned, it will be option D, 1, 2, and 3. Right. So whenever we see the practice question after going through the prelims pointers which we have discussed, these questions seem pretty simple. But down the line, when you will not be attempting the questions immediately after reading the topic, then it might confuse you that whether it was a treaty or not, whether it was legally binding or not. Right? Okay. Now, moving towards third topic. Now, this third topic again is important because European Union has become the first region in order to develop a law to regulate artificial intelligence. So they have reached to a provincial deal. Voting is not yet done, so voting will be completed, and it is expected that by 2025 this law will take its effect. Right? By 2024 the proposals will be voted, and this is known as basically the Artificial Intelligence Act. Right? Now, if again you go by the previous year questions in 2019, if you see the question, it was pretty simple. Obviously, we need not to go into the detailed provisions of this act, right? But in 2019, the question was asked in relation to the GDPR, that is General Data Protection Regulation. And the question said that which of the following regions are associated with this particular law. So in the similar fashion, just a very small information that if it at all, it comes the question regarding the law or regulation of the artificial intelligence, again, the region is European Union. Here also, the answer was European Union in the context of general data protection, right? So similarly, if you see this practice question also, it is formed on a similar pattern. Recently, a draft of the Artificial Intelligence Act, which classifies AI technology into 4 risk categories to regulate their use and development, has been passed by which among the following? D, European Union will be the correct answer, right? But in this question, an important phrase is there. Important thing is that 4 risk categories of this act. So in this sense, we will also discuss in brief that what is this 4 risk categories, how is it differentiated in their respective act. Okay. So as you can see in this picture, there are 4 categories. One is the unacceptable risk. So this is the highest category, right? So that means this category will be having the most stringent laws, correct? As you go down, this category is the least bottommost category, which is the minimal risk. Now, if we have to understand this with the help of example, so the unacceptable risk, the example of this is the facial recognition or the dark pattern artificial intelligence. So you must have seen several videos which were mocked, which were used for the political objectives, which were also used in the porn industry. So basically what was happening that artificial intelligence was being used to morph the faces of these celebrities, of those people who are very famous globally, right? So this risk comes under the unacceptable risk category. Similarly, the dark pattern artificial intelligence, which can be used again for various criminal activities. So this is of the highest degree of the risk, and hence it is in the unacceptable risk. Second level is the high risk, where the AI can be misused for, let's say, transportation systems, safety, employment, education, etc. So there will be certain exceptions, right? Limited risk AI systems with specific transparency requirements such as chatbot, emotion recognition systems, etc. And the minimal risk will be, for example, AI enabled video games, right? So obviously for different categories, there will be difference in the stringentness degree, that how these laws have to be enforced in different categories of crimes, right? So just have a look at the facts. So the framework comprises safeguards on AI use within the European Union, and because of this safeguards, the consumers will be empowered to file complaints against the violations, if any. Again, it will be the fine or the punishment will be dependent that violation falls in which of these four categories, right? So here the four categories are mentioned. The Act's central approach is the classification of AI tech based on the level of risk they pose to the health and safety of the fundamental rights, right? It prohibits the using technologies in unacceptable risk category with little exception. Obviously, we have discussed this thing. And then there is also a one body which is to be performed, and it will be known as EU AI Office, European Union Artificial Intelligence Office. So the function of this would be that to monitor and sanction those who violate the law, right? So again, the question AI office is in the context of which region? So again, European Union. Under which act? Under the Artificial Intelligence Act, right? Small topic, but important topic, right? Next topic. Now this topic is from the culture section, right? So in this news, when you see, if you have gone through the newspapers, so if you have seen that this particular picture is of a sun temple known as Martand Sun Temple, right? So on daily basis, we know that regularly in newspaper, the topics from the culture history section are very low. But when it comes, so obviously we have to do them, right? So that is why we have taken the topic, the important facts related to Martand Sun Temple. Important fact, this is located in J&K. It is an 8th century temple, right? That means in the post-Gupta period. It is dedicated to Martand, the sun god, right? J&K. It was constructed during the reign of Lalit Aditya Muktapida, and he was of Karkota dynasty. Again, there are many rulers which about whom we do not study in the regular when we study about the ancient history, but when we talk about the culture or architecture, then also there are certain rulers which are important, right? They have a very limited contribution, but from the UPSC examinations perspective, their contribution becomes important when their contribution is within the sphere of culture or architecture. We know because this is one of the favorite areas in the prelims examination. So that is why this name Lalit Aditya Muktapida is important, and this Karkota dynasty is important. It can also be related to the temple architecture if the statement is such in the constitution, in the question, right? Now, as far as the architectural styles is concerned, so it is basically a mixture of three architectural styles. One, classical Greco-Roman style. Second, Gandhar art, which is from the Buddhist aspect, and North Indian styles, right? Nagar architecture. Because it was in the post-Gupta period, so obviously you will be seeing the Gupta influence also. Okay. Three distinct chambers are there in this temple. Now, if you are seeing this picture, you might be noticing that this temple is not that well maintained, right? But there are three distinct chambers: Mandap, Garbhagriha, and Antralay. And this is one of the rare temples in that region to have 3 chambers. Otherwise, most of the temples have 2 chambers. Now, an important book, that is Raj Tarangini. So you must have heard about this book, you must have read about this book in the culture. Raj Tarangani, written by Kalhan, describes the grandeur of Martand temple. So that is why again this temple becomes important, because it is also having an intersection with a very important book written by a very important writer in that period. Right? Now, if we have to talk about this king, so he ruled Kashmir in this particular period, and he built the capital of his kingdom at Parihaspura. Right? So these were certain important facts. Now, if we have to see the practice question, let us try to attempt it. Consider the following statements about Martand temple in Kashmir. The temple is attributed to Lalit Aditya Muktapida, again factually correct. Temple is dedicated to sun god, correct. The temple has been constructed using bricks made of clay. No, not bricks, it was of stones. So if you see this picture, so what are you seeing here? Are these bricks or stones? Right? So these are stones, and that is why this will be incorrect, and only 2 will be, B option will be the correct answer. Right? Simple topic, but an important topic.